Welcome, everybody. Joe Lett, Cajun Ghost Hunter here on the History.FM radio.
Thank you for joining us on History FM Radio on liveparanormal.com and History.fm. From paranormal to the unexplained history, it all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in live interactive chat 24/7 with our radio show hosts and other like-minded people on www.liveparanormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by full interactive media. Stop by now and join in on the fun.
Welcome, everybody. This is, again, Stanley Jolette, the Cajun Ghost Hunter, welcoming you to the Cajun Ghost Hunter Chronicles here on the History.FM radio network under liveparanormal.com. I wanted to go ahead and introduce myself to y'all, let y'all know what I'm all about here. I'm an author. I've written a book called Paranormal Investigations, the Cajun Ghost Hunter Chronicles. And I got into the paranormal about 3.5 years ago. My mother died, and I was grieving her loss, and I was watching these shows on the television, the paranormal shows, and when I saw these guys, what they were doing, I decided I think I could do that. Because I'm a degree chemist. I have a degree in chemistry from LSU, and because of my instrumentation experience, I figured that I could do some of the things that these guys were doing on the TV. So I decided to go out and get myself a RT EVP recorder, which is a device that could record both in radio sweep at 50 milliseconds, or an ambient, what I call ambient, where you just hit the record button and let that sensitive microphone take over. And so after I had started using this device to try to contact my mother, eventually, going out to the family tomb in Thibodaux, Louisiana, I started to contact her via EVP and the radio sweep. And then I would go out to there's a large sugarcane plantation about 4 miles down the road from the graveyard there, and I would go visit that also on Saturday afternoons and just stand out in front of the slave quarters there at Laurel Valley Plantation and record EVP. And eventually, after I had been investigating there and other places that I would stop at, because I travel a lot for my job, and I would always find places around here in South Louisiana to stay at where I could investigate that were haunted. Eventually, I accumulated so much information that I went ahead and wrote a book, and I published it last year, and it's available on Amazon. I also have a website. It's an interactive book. It's I have a website, www.CajunGhostHunter.com, and the book, each chapter in the book has its own web page where I've posted my EVPs that I talk about in the book. The chapters in the book tell the stories behind the EVPs that I have on my website, so it's interactive. And so getting down to it, I really love EVP, and I plan to in the future have some guests here on my show that will talk about their paranormal investigations and also their EVPs or any other evidence that they've accumulated, and perhaps I'll be able to upload it and play it for you here on the show. So let's jump right into an EVP here. This is my favorite one. It's an EVP that I play for the skeptics out there. It's it's on my website. It's on the top toolbar. It's the last one on the page. It's called Jeremy. And the history behind Jeremy is that Jeremy, my niece Susan, my wife's niece Susan Talbot in New Orleans, she was moving into a new apartment, and she wanted me to do a house cleansing. And so I went ahead and I grabbed my equipment and I went with her. I went to her house. And I went to her house, and her roommate told me that they had, every time somebody new moves into the house, that they have a poltergeist that would actually, he would pull books off the shelves, or he would throw pots and pans on the floor. So I went over there, and I had never done a house cleansing, but I went ahead and I read up on it, researched it, and I brought some holy water and some virgin olive oil to anoint the doors and the rooms in the house and to bless the house. And I also brought along my equipment to see if I could contact the spirit that was causing these manifestations. So I went ahead and I went to the house, and while I was there, Susan's husband was there also, and he joined me. And I went to the back shed where they said they had that most poltergeist activity in the back shed, that they had a lot of hauntings back there. And that they had found a book in the back shed where they had a suicide note in it from a previous resident. So I went ahead and I stopped in her bedroom on the way to the shed, and I did a quick RT EVP recording with the radio sweep. And I had plugged in my headphones just to listen along, because I usually process my files after the fact. And when I did this session, I listened, and I heard some voices mention Jeremy. And so I went to the tool shed after that with her husband Shane, and I had under the presumption that I was going to try to contact the spirit of Jeremy, and I figured that he might have been the person that had killed himself. So I went ahead and I did this session. And when I did the session, this is what I got when you hear this EVP. First you hear Shane says, "What was the note here?" They found a note saying you killed yourself, a suicide note. And I said, "Did you follow through?" And then you hear a spirit say, "My leg." And Shane says, "My leg? What? Something like that?" I said, "Yeah, something like that. Something about a note." And the spirit goes, "I know it." And I said, "You know it?" "Yeah, we know it. We read the note." And then you hear a spirit go, "Gachoo, gachoo." And I told Shane, I said, "He's talking to you." And then the spirit goes, "Clear cut." And I said, "What'd you do? Did you do it to yourself?" And the spirit said, "I did." And then Shane goes, "Jeremy." And the spirit comes back and goes, "Intelligent." And Shane goes, "Jeremy, why'd you do it?" And the spirit comes back and says, "It was hard." And then you hear another spirit say, "He's dead." And the spirit said, "He died." And Shane says, "Jeremy." And I said, "Why don't you like Jeremy?" And Shane comes back and he goes, "Jeremy, why didn't you like it when I say Jeremy?" And Shane goes, "Now you're being quiet." And then there's a little pause, and all of a sudden you hear a spirit voice loud and clear comes out and says, "Jeremy." And Shane runs upstairs and out the shed upstairs to tell his wife Susan that a spirit had called out Jeremy to him. And I'm there and I'm chuckling, and I go, "Yeah, that's correct, Jeremy, yes." And I go, "You scared Shane? He's gone." And you hear the spirit says, "Ran away." I go, "Yeah, he ran away." And I go, "Why'd you die? How did you die?" And Spirit comes back and says, it's following me. And I'm chuckling, and as Shane walks back in the shed, he goes, I'm back, Jeremy. And I said, and Spirit goes, I know. I go, yeah, you know it. And then the Spirit comes back and says, how Susan? And that was, I just couldn't believe that. So here's Jeremy. I'm going to go ahead and play Jeremy now.
What was a note here? They found a note saying you killed yourself. Suicide note.
Did you follow through?
Why would I? Something like that.
Something like that. Something about a note.
You know it?
You know it? Yeah, we know it. We read the note. We were talking to you. What'd you do? Did you do it to yourself?
Jeremy. Jeremy, why'd you do it? Jeremy.
Why don't you like Jeremy?
Jeremy, why didn't you like when I say Jeremy? Now you're being quiet.
Yes, that's correct, Jeremy. Yes. You scared Shane. He's gone. Yeah, he ran away. Why'd you die? How did you die?
Allowing me. I'm back, Jeremy. On a comment.
Yeah, you know it.
Well, that was Jeremy, and to me, that's probably the best one-on-one interaction with spirits that I've ever encountered in my my investigative history here. So, moving on, I like to write about all of the different places that I visited, and I love the history of the places. I like to investigate the histories before I go to these places, so that just in case I capture anything of relevance, it'll verify if I've actually captured something from the past, which is what a lot of us investigators search for. We don't just search for spirits. We try to find references to the spirits of the past that shows that there is a connection there between the spirit and the place that it is haunting. So anyway, moving on here, my wife Barbara and I, we travel a lot together. And this past November, we went to the Grand Cayman Islands and spent a week there. And while we were there, we had been there the year before, and there were several places that we just loved. And one of the first places that we stopped at was, it's called the Wreck of the Tin Sail. And in 1794, a great maritime tragedy took place on the east end of the Grand Cayman. And it was called the Wreck of the Tin Sails. It's legendary. And it recalls the tragedy of the Cordelia, which is part of a convoy of merchant ships that were heading to Great Britain from Jamaica. And the Cordelia ran aground on the reef at the east end, and it sent a signal to the other ships behind it to steer away from the dangerous coral. But sadly, the signal was misunderstood, and one by one, all of the ships in the convoy ran up on the reef. And residents of the East End were credited with quick actions. They came from all around. They swam out there. They gathered all of the people on all of these 10 ships that were stuck out on these reefs. And because there was no life that was left unsaved, supposedly King George III later recognized them for their bravery in the rescues. And various stories explain that King George III granted the islands freedom from conscription and other versions of taxation. So supposedly that's what was their reward for rescuing all of these Englishmen from their fate of drowning when they ran up on these reefs. And in 1994, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip went there, and they dedicated a memorial on the 200th anniversary of the wreck of the tin sail. And so when I went there and I stood in front of the monument there, I did a couple of EVPs. And the first one that I did, I asked what was the name of the British Queen that dedicated the memorial, and a voice came back and told me that it was Elizabeth. And when I asked what was her husband's name, and the voice came back and said Philip was with her. So I'm going to go ahead here, and we'll go ahead and we're going to play Elizabeth first here.
What's the name of the British Queen that dedicated this memorial?
I'll play it again.
What's the name of the British Queen that dedicated this memorial?
Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play the one where they mentioned Philip.
What was her husband's name?
Listen closely, and you can hear they say Philip with her.
What was her husband's name?
One more time.
What was her husband's name?
After we had visited the wreck of the tin sail, we went back to a place that we really loved. It's called Pedro St. James in Grand Cayman. And because of the population of the island, it was only about 500 in the late 18th century, and Grand Cayman was just a little fishing village. William Eden was the landowner and farmer of a plantation, and he built the house using slave labor. And he called it Pedro St. James. And it's been used as a courthouse, a jail, a government assembly, and restaurant since its construction more than 200 years ago. And it's survived hurricanes, fires, vandalism, and all sorts of things, hijinks and whatnot. And in 1831, on December the 5th, Pedro St. James was the venue for a meeting where the decision was made to form the first elected parliament for the island. And a liaison was formed with the governor of Jamaica, Robert Thompson. And he was sent on May the 3rd of 1835 and held court at Pedro St. James to issue the proclamation ending slavery in the British Empire. Thus, Pedro St. James became known as the birthplace of democracy in the Cayman Islands and the site where the slaves of the islands were granted their freedom, which was like 30 years before that happened here in the United States of America. And I had visited Pedro St. James and wrote about it in my book and about the different spirits that I captured in EVP there. But on this particular instance, when we went back there, our tour guide, when we got out the car, his name was Leonardo Henry. Leonardo told me that just about almost a year ago that a young boy had gone to the back and dove off the cliffs back there. He was doing some cliff diving. It was around Christmas time in 2012. And that he drowned, and took them a couple of days to find the body. And he said that, don't you know, a week after this young teenager drowned, another guy went out there, and in practically the same area, he jumped off the cliffs, and he drowned. And the young teenager that drowned, his name was Justin Henry. And a week later, a 21-year-old man named Adam Rankin, he died from cliff diving off of there. And so when I heard this, I immediately was drawn back to the back bluffs of Pedro St. James, and I did an ambient EVP recording where I just turned on my EVP recorder, and I asked if there were any spirits of young boys back there. And I picked up a disembodied voice on my EVP recorder, and it was a young man, and he said, "I'm back here." And so you're going to be able to hear this when I play it now.
Any spirits of young boys here?
One more time.
Any spirits of young boys here?
And you can hear his inflection. He goes, "I'm back here."
Any spirits of young boys here?
So that was really freaky when I found that, because I'm a radio sweep kind of guy. 90% of my work in my book was done using radio sweep. And whenever I catch an ambient EVP like that, I'm just really fascinated by that. And so on another day during our November vacation, we stopped in it's called Bodentown. It's over there near the East End. And they have there what they call the Pirates Caves. And these are caves. They're made of beautiful natural rock formations comprised of mostly what's called Caymanite. And down in these caves, they were supposedly pirates used to bury their treasure down there. So they put some artificial props down there just to enhance the effect of visiting these caves. And what happened down there, Barbara and I, when we went there, there was nobody else there. We were by ourselves. They have some grounds where you can stroll their grounds, where they have some animals, a little petting area and whatnot, and some plant life. But the caves, they're real natural caves, and pirates actually did come there to bury their treasure. And in 2004, with Hurricane Ivan, many new caves were uncovered, leading to the discovery of many new underground chambers. Well, anyway, when Hurricane Ivan had hit there, it pushed a wall of water about 11 feet high throughout the islands, Cayman Islands. And the way that it is, the graves, they had a graveyard across the street from these caves, and pushed the graves up, and they opened up the caskets, and the bones floated across the street to the Pirates' Caves, to this site. And actually, after we had toured the caves and we were in the gift shop, I was asking the girl, I told her about my book and what I do, and I asked her if they had these bones as props down there, and they had a makeshift grave, and they had these bones on top of it, and I asked her if these bones were real, and she kind of rolled her eyes and chuckled, and she said, yes. She goes, they are real human bones. She goes, my uncle, who owns the place, when the bones floated across the street, he just took them and kept them for props and put them on top of the grave. And don't you know, when I was doing my EVP, I did an EVP session down there, I saw these bones, and I didn't even want to get near them because they looked human to me, and this girl verified that they were. And I had done a radio sweep down there, and I captured this young girl's voice. And what she says is, what the hell I replace here? Simone, I like it in here. And when I interpreted that, I was thinking, maybe she was saying that she was replaced from her grave across the street. And what the hell I replaced down here? And she was down there in this cave now, and she was telling her friend Simone that she liked it in there. And so, Here, let's go ahead and we're going to play Simone right now. This is Radio Sweep, so listen closely so you can hear it amongst above the noise from the background. See, I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit. It's really scratchy there. And one more time. Now, while I was down there in these caves, I also did an ambient EVP session. And on our way back, when we were flying back, I had Audacity on my computer, and I had uploaded the file, so I was processing it on the plane. And when I did, I captured, right after I had asked if you were a pirate, tell me your name, I captured an ambient voice, disembodied voice that said, "It's Colonel Lafitte." And whenever I process EVP, I always do the reverse speech of everything that I've captured. So when I did the reverse speech of "It's Colonel Lafitte," in a British accent, the voice says, "He's been arrested." So what I usually do is I take the reverse speech and I copy and I paste it after the forward speech, and it's usually related and it's usually intelligent in a lot of my applications. So here on this EVP, you're going to hear me asking if you're a pirate, tell me your name, and you're going to hear, "It's Colonel Lafitte. He's been arrested." Here we go. It's Colonel Lafitte.
If you're a pirate, tell me your name.
It's Colonel Lafitte. He's been arrested.
Do it again.
If you're a pirate, tell me your name.
It's Colonel Lafitte. He's been arrested.
I love this one. I just have to play it one more time.
If you're a pirate, tell me your name.
It's Colonel Lafitte. He's been arrested.
Well, that was Colonel Lafitte, and that was fascinating because to me it was a mystical day because there was nobody there, and so I had free reign of the entire site for the few for the 15-20 minutes that we were there, and that was simply amazing. Well, on another day, we went to what's called the Queen Elizabeth Botanical Gardens down in it's called Frank Sound, and while we were there, they have all sorts of flora and fauna around there. Queen Elizabeth II herself, I guess it was the same year that she came down there to dedicate the memorial at the wreck of the Tin Seal. She also opened Grand Cayman's Botanic Park in 1994. And there's many species of birds there, tricolored herons, moorhen herons, black-necked stilts, American coots. And one of the animals that is really noteworthy there is what's called the Grand Cayman blue iguana. And the park's a home for the National Trust for the endemic Grand Cayman blue iguana captive breeding program. And they have more than 40 of these purebred blue iguanas housed there. And they also have a rearing facility for them to multiply there and breed them. And it's jointly funded by the Zoological Society of Milwaukee County in Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Zoo, and affiliated with the Foundation for Wildlife Conservation, also Milwaukee. And it's also funded by Friends of the National Zoo from the U.S. National Zoo in Washington, D.C. So anyway, we had they're usually seen at between 8:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning, but we had the privilege of actually, when we got there, somebody coming out of the facility said that there was a blue iguana out by the back, near the back gate, and this was like 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon. So we were blessed to be able to see this animal at this time of day. And we went back there, and sure enough, there was a blue iguana back there, and he was about 3 feet long, beautiful creature. And as we were walking back, we were walking around the lake there after we'd seen this blue iguana, and I had my camera, my digital camera, Kodak M1063, and I put it in video mode, and I took a video of a pond near the lake there. And later on, when I played back the video, I had captured a disembodied voice. And the disembodied voice said, "Nathan stabbed iguana." And this was right after I'd seen the blue iguana. And like I said, I always check out the reverse speech of my EVPs. And don't you know this, the reverse speech? He said, "And now he's glad he did." So I copied and pasted it together, and I have an EVP that says, "Nathan stabbed iguana, and now he's glad he did." And I looked it up also on the, researched it to see if they actually did eat iguanas in the Caribbean. And I found a site for Trinidad Tobago in the Caribbean where they actually showed how to skin an iguana and eat it. It's a delicacy down there. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play Nathan Stabbed Iguana.
Nathan Stabbed Iguana, and now he's glad he did.
And again.
Nathan Stabbed Iguana, and now he's glad he did.
And if you notice, it does sound like a native Caymanian saying this.
Nathan Stabbed Iguana, and now he's glad he did.
So that was from the Queen Elizabeth Botanical Gardens there in the Grand Cayman. And the next day, Barbara and I, we stopped at what's called the East End Lighthouse Park near the resort that we were staying at over there on the East End. And we had seen it, and there's hardly seen any cars ever going there, but we stopped there because I wanted to see the lighthouses up at the top of this hill. You couldn't see them from the street. And the reefs at the eastern end of Grand Cayman had long been a hazard to shipping. And, of course, we talked about the wreck of the Tin Seal, and the East End was known as the graveyard of the Caribbean because of all of the ships that would run up on the reefs there and, break apart. And perhaps if there had been a system of lights in place at the time, the accident might have been avoided, but it would be another 100 years before the first lighthouse would ever be built on that end of the island. And today they have at first I think they had a kerosene lighthouse there, and it's an older one. It's made of metal, and it's still there. And they left it there as like a museum piece. And they built a modern lighthouse in front of it, and it's basically like a tower, like you see with a light on it for that you see for cell towers around here. And it sort of looks more like an oil rig well structure with a light on top of it. And they have these 37 steps that go up to the top that are about 3 feet wide. So you make a little climb to get to the top. And when we went up, we went up there, and when we were up there, I went and I was doing an EVP session on the they had a foundation, cement foundation around the old lighthouse. And while I was doing this this EVP session on the cement there, Barbara was walking around the perimeter. They have a wall about 3 feet high, and they have plaques around the area there telling about the history of the lighthouses and the wreck of the tin sail. So Barbara was in the corner looking down the hill where we had just come up from, and down the hill they have a monument with some graves there, unmarked graves. So Barbara was on the side of the wall looking down at this monument, and all of a sudden her foot sank about 6 inches down. Her left foot sank 6 inches down into the dirt. And when it did, she said that it looked like the ground was bubbling up around her foot, like something was trying to come up to get her. And she said she pulled her foot out and she stuck a stick in there and poked around at it, and nothing was there. And she comes up to me and she told me, she goes, "I called them up from hell myself. Come see that." And that was a disembodied voice from another location of the plantation here in Louisiana that I had posted an EVP on my website. And I said, "Barbara, why are you saying that?" She goes, "Come see what happened." And so she brought me over to this place where it happened, and I said, "Are you sure?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "You sure that it wasn't like a vision that you saw, this bubbling action?" She goes, "No, it was real." She said something was trying to get me. Well, it really freaked her out. So a day later, I wanted to take a picture of the depression in the ground where her foot sank. So we went back up there so I could get a picture just in case I could capture anything in my sessions up there to overlay my EVP video, make my EVP video with. And when I went up there and I did a spirit box session at the same place in the lighthouse. And after I was filming the PSB7 Spirit Box session, after I was shutting down, I'd shut down the Spirit Box, and I was getting ready to shut down my video camera. I said, if anybody's here, speaking to the blinking red light, I'm getting ready to leave. Well, I captured a disembodied voice. And he said, "I am Cola Imbrian here." And I went ahead and when I processed the reverse speech of this EVP, he said, "Stay, play with me, don't walk down." So I have a disembodied voice in forward and reverse speech, and he said, "I am Cola Imbrian here, stay with me, stay, play with me, don't walk down." So I was wondering, do you think maybe that was the spirit that had contacted Barbara and wanted her to stay there to play with him? Here we go. This is Cola Imbrian. One more time. And again. So that was Cola Imbrian here, and we're gonna take a little break here. And you are listening live to History.fm radio on www.liveparanormal.com, the paranormal's top social community. And continuing on here, since I have a job where I do a lot of traveling here in South Louisiana, I had decided that I was going to find a bed and breakfast near Venice, Louisiana, so that I could have a safe place to stay, because there's no hotels down in Venice, and so I found this bed and breakfast about 30 miles upriver from the site, and it's called the Woodland Plantation in Hache, Louisiana. And it not only flipped the bill, but it was haunted beyond my wildest dreams. And this house was built in the 1830s by William Johnson, who was a riverboat captain, but he was also a pirate. And he built this house. He was a pirate with his friend George Bradish, and they moved down here, and they built the Magnolia Plantation, and their families lived there for 40 years before the families kind of got in discord, so William Johnson decided to take his family and build his own place. And on the Woodland Plantation site, there were 4 slave quarters that were there before the Woodland was ever built, because of the fact that William Johnson was friends with Jean Lafitte, the pirate, and Jean Lafitte would raid the slave ships in the Gulf of Mexico and bring them up Grand Bayou and bring them to the slave quarters, where these dormitories where they would sell the slaves up and down the river and bring them to auction in New Orleans. And there's an account of life at the Woodland Plantation. Well, eventually the Woodland Plantation was inherited by Bradish Johnson, the second son of William Johnson. And Bradish Johnson had promised his brother, George, that he would free the slaves of the plantation if George would sell it to him. And George did, but Bradish never did free the slaves and give them money and $50 and free passports to Liberia during the African diaspora pre-Civil War. So anyway, during the Civil War, life at the Woodland was confusing and difficult, and the Office of Negro Labor was sent to investigate the conditions there, and they found that there was the overseer, Decker, who ran the plantation, was creating a great ill feeling of discontent, and that caused much animosity towards him. And the former slaves that were now called laborers by the Union Army said that they would accept even the devil for an overseer if only they would remove that man. And they even begged to enlist in the Union Army because of the poor living conditions there. And they complained that Decker was lecherous towards their women and that their rations were unfairly curtailed by him. So after the inspectors left, Decker is said to have used seditious and insulting language towards the Union, and he harassed the slaves, boasting of his unlimited power over them. And eventually, as time went on and the plantation went through different stages of ownership, eventually in 1997 and 98, it was bought by Claire, Jacques, and Foster Crapel, who owned the columns in New Orleans. And the slave dormitories, they had been blown down in the 60s by Hurricane Betsy. And so the Crapels renovated it between 1997 and 1998. And during the renovation, Foster moved into the house, and he began the restoration. But his sleep was often disturbed by the sounds of loud footsteps and furniture being moved on the second floor. And this continued night after night, which prevented him from a restful sleep. So when he looked for intruders, nobody was there, and the noises did not seem like creaking old windows or owls. So he described the noises like there were several people up there. But one night, the television outside of his room came crashing to the floor at 3 o'clock in the morning. So Foster jumped to his feet, went out there, saw the television at his feet, and he exclaimed to the spirit, he says, "If you wake me up one more time, I'm going to burn the whole house down." And he thought that that would help, and surely it did, because it apparently was enough to calm the ghost down around Foster, because he was never heard he never has ever again heard of anything from his ghostly residence there. So anyway, the first time I stayed there at the Woodland Plantation, I went to take a shower, and the shower handle flew off and hit the wall, and water started spewing out, and I had to call Foster to come shut off the water. And he accused me of turning the handle too hard, but I didn't. It just shot out from the wall on its own. So I knew that it was truly a haunted place. So I've done a lot of EVPs here at the Woodland Plantation, and one of the spirit box sessions that I had there last year on a PSB7 spirit box when I asked if I captured Bradish Johnson saying his name on the PSB7. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play that one right now for you.
What is your name?
Play it again.
What is your name?
And one more time.
What is your name?
And that's that was pretty neat, getting the former owner's first and last name. Once when I was staying there, I stayed in what's called the captain's quarters up there, and this was actually an ambient EVP. Where when I was asking Bradish Johnson to make himself known, to make himself known to me, and when I did, I actually got a voice on an ambient EVP, and it was a gruff, whispering voice, and he says, "I don't feel I'm welcome here. I feel like they're going to kill me." And I actually put that in my book because it was one of the best. It was a 15-syllable straight EVP ITC, disembodied voice that I captured on my RT EVP recorder. So here is Don't Feel Welcome.
Makes your presence known.
And again.
Makes your presence known.
And one more time.
Makes your presence known.
Now, at first I was thinking maybe that was Bradish Johnson, but in the history of the place, I learned that the slaves truly loved Bradish, so perhaps what I was capturing was the voice of the overseer Decker that was mean to the slaves and lecherous with their women. In the slave dormitories that they had there, they brought slaves from all over, from not only from Africa but also from Haiti, where they practiced voodoo. And so these slaves from Haiti actually brought over their practices with them, their rituals. And one morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was staying in one of the rooms there called the Roost. And I had my infrared camera, a little Vivitar infrared camera, not very expensive, maybe about $60. And I had placed it pointing towards the corner of the room, hoping that I could capture an orb traveling along the seams between the wall and the ceilings, where I've seen a lot of orbs travel before. And I put this video on my website, CajunGhostHunter.com, and it's at the top of the toolbar. It's near the bottom. It's called Come See That. And when I played back the video, when I processed the video, I actually had a voice. I captured a woman's voice. And she says, I call them up from hell myself. Come see that. And it was just, that just sent chills down my spine when I first heard it. Because it made me think about what was it actually a voodoo vodun, a voodoo priestess calling to me to come watch her ceremony with fire, where she was trying to call up spirits, conjure up spirits, or maybe it was just a residual of a ritual in the past, and she was just calling out to everybody that she calls up these spirits from hell herself to come see that. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play Come See That. And again. And one more time. And like I said, you can go on my website at CajunGhostHunter.com and look on the top toolbar for Come See That. You can actually see the raw video itself as it's being played. And I also, in October of last year, before I went on vacation, I set to stay at the Woodland Plantation. And while I was doing an EVP session at the top of the stairs, and there was nobody in the house. Everybody had left to go to the Spirits Hall, which is like 200 yards away, for supper. And I was by myself. And so I went ahead and I put on my recorder. And when I put on my recorder, I actually captured a disembodied eagle screeching, a bird screeching. And then a human voice, after the bird screeches, immediately after says, an eagle. So I had a disembodied spirit telling me that I had just captured an eagle's voice, and from the past. I guess it was from the past, or the spirits were there manifesting themselves from another dimension. But I just felt humbled whenever I played this back and processed this EVP from my digital recorder. And like I said, this was an ambient EVP, and I just love these because these are actual spirits manifesting themselves over the microphone. And so here we go. You're going to hear like a whistle from a bird, and you're going to hear a human voice say an eagle. Again. And one more time. And just recently, I went ahead and I had downloaded EchoVox to my tablet. And we're moving along here. We're almost finished for the evening here. So I'm going to go ahead and just let you know that I captured a minute and a half worth of relevant EVP on this EchoVox in Bank B. And I actually captured the owner's name, Foster Crapel, being said during this EchoVox session just at the end of January, just recently. And I'm going to go ahead and play it for you, and you're going to hear the spirit say, Foster Crapel, Foster come and slept. And remember, I told you that Foster had actually slept there while the spirits were moving stuff around upstairs while he was renovating the place. So it really has relevance to the history of the place. And here we go. Here's Foster. Foster Crapel, Foster slept here. And that's Foster Crapel, Foster come and slept. Well, that was pretty neat, though. I mean, I played that for Foster, and whenever you have EVP where a spirit says your first and your last name, that's just purely fascinating to me. And in future shows, I'm going to play some EVPs for y'all where I have EVPs where spirit actually said my first and my real last name, which is Robleski. So if you have a spirit that can say Robleski, which most living people can't say phonetically correctly without me correcting them, then you know that it's real and true EVP and a spirit, and it's not pareidolia. So anyway, join me next week, everybody. Next week I plan to have another EVP person on here. His name is Rick Wade. He's the author of My Paranormal Journey, One Man's Obsession, and he will be joining me. Hopefully we'll be able to play some of his EVPs and discuss his work and his work as he's also a medium and a seer. He has some very interesting stories he can tell us. So I want to thank everybody for listening in. This was my first show. Being here talking by myself, it was a little interesting to say the least, and it was my first time hosting a radio show, and I know that I've flubbed it up in a few instances here, but I hope that everything that I did so far, that you've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to playing some more EVPs and discussing my paranormal experiences with everybody in the future. Have a good weekend. God bless.